The 2023 College Basketball Hall of Fame class was headlined by two schools that sit just 8 miles apart and some of the all-time greatest contributors to our great sport. The Duke-UNC rivalry is just always popping up.
You are Locked On College Basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? Welcome into the Locked On College Basketball Podcast, the only daily national college hoop show out there. The calendar has turned to September. How is that real? But that means we're inching ever closer to the 23-24 basketball season, and that's great news. I'm your host today, Isaac Shade, and I want to thank you for tuning in to Locked On College Basketball for your first listen or watch every single day. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Coming up on the show today, we are going to talk about this 5-person 2023 College Basketball Hall of Fame class. We'll look at just a minute Tyler Hansbrough and some of the other folks that are in it. We're obviously going to start with Coach K as the biggest headline in this class. And we also want to talk about some great things that Michigan State and Tennessee have decided to do, and a little bit of a news update on the FIBA World Cup going on. Great stuff there. So, the College Basketball Hall of Fame. First off, if you've never been, you should go. Do not get confused. This is not the Basketball Hall of Fame. There's a separate thing. This one's actually in Kansas City, the College Basketball Hall of Fame. If you've been to Kansas City, it's downtown. It used to be the Sprint Center where they have basketball. Now it's the T-Mobile Center, but attached to the T-Mobile Center is the college basketball experience. This whole experience is pretty cool, but part of that college basketball experience is the College Basketball Hall of Fame, which was started in 2006 by the NABC, the National Association of Basketball Coaches. A pretty cool thing. Seriously, if you're ever in the Kansas City area, you should go. It's a great city. I love Kansas City so much. But in November of 2006, the NABC went ahead and basically inducted around 180 people, bringing them into that first class, which included Coach Krzyzewski. He was already part of that, but he waited till they could choose when they actually wanted to be honored. So he waited then till after he was retired. And Johnny Dawkins, one of the guys that really helped make Duke, was part of this 23 class. And so it made a ton of sense for this to be the year when Coach K kind of had his moment, if you'll allow me to say it that way. So we're going to take some time to introduce the class. I'll go through the other 4 names in a little bit, but just thought it would be appropriate to start with the winningest college basketball coach in history. But want to honor all 5 of these men, their successes and their contributions to our game. I'm so grateful for everything that they've done. And I kind of joked about the Duke-Carolina rivalry, but very seriously, 3 of the 5 are Duke and Carolina guys: Coach K, Johnny Dawkins, and Tyler Hansbrough. So it's also fun, the Twitter accounts for Duke basketball and Carolina basketball playing along, playing well, giving the shaking hands emoji with a ram and a blue devil there. So good stuff. So let's talk Coach K. I don't know about you. I'm still struggling to come to grips with the fact that Coach K is not the head coach of Duke basketball, that he's not the one patrolling the sidelines. It's just weird. And, Coach Shire seems like it's off to a great start. Kind of a different guy, different temperament and personality than Coach K, but seems like he's going to be in great shape himself. So Coach K, let me run through a couple of his accolades, and then I got some just observations I want to make. Winningest coach in NCAA history across all divisions. It's not just Division I. Won 1,202 games, 73 at Army in his 5 years there, and then 1,129 victories at Duke across 42 seasons as the head coach of the Blue Devil. 5-time national champion, 1991, 92, 2001, 2010, and then most recently in 2015. He was a 12-time National Coach of the Year, made 13 Final Fours, 15 ACC tournament championships, 14 ACC regular season championships. His teams spent 127 weeks ranked number 1 in the AP poll. He also had 36 NCAA tournament bids. That's the most ever and 101 total March Madness wins. That's also the most ever. I mean, just ridiculous stuff that Coach K did. Also, keep in mind, it's not just college basketball, although that's what we're talking about honoring right now. But remember how USA basketball had kind of floundered a little bit, and then he took over the helm ahead of the 2008 Beijing Olympics, and then USA got right back to it, winning gold in 2008 at Beijing, in 2012 in London, and then 2016 at Rio down in Brazil. So really great for that. Man, so here's where I want to land a little bit with it. Just a couple talking points aside from the good grief of everything that Coach K accomplished. Coach K is the poster child, or one of the poster childs, I guess I should say, poster children. Child is not the plural of child, Isaac, right? You're all with me. Poster children for patience. Here's what I mean. Coach K's first 3 years at Duke, if it happened today with the quick turnover coaching carousel climate that we have, I don't know that he would have survived. I'll tell you why. So Coach K had spent his first 5 years as a head coach at Army. The last of those years was a 9-17 record. So not exactly a glowing endorsement for hiring him at Duke, right? Like that's something we look at a lot of times when we're looking at the coaching carousel. Oh, they're going to hire this guy. Why? He just had a terrible year at his previous stop. No, a lot of times it's because like a coach at a mid-major school takes them to the second round of the tournament. It's like, oh, that coach is doing it. So there's that aspect of it. But then Coach K's first 3 years at Duke, 1980-81, the Blue Devils were 17-13, 6-8 in the ACC. Respectable for your first year, but then it kind of fell off each of the next 2 years. 81-82, the Blue Devils were 10-17 overall, 4-10 in the ACC. And a little bit of a step down in the ACC again. 82-83 season, the Blue Devils were 11-17 and 3-11 in the ACC. Now, if that's today's climate, he's the headline of every hot seat conversation and article we're having. People are wondering if he's going to survive. Maybe he wouldn't have even survived. None of those 3 seasons did the Blue Devils make the NCAA tournament. They finished tied for 5th, tied for 6th, and 7th in the ACC in those 3 years. Duke could have pulled the trigger, and if it was today, nobody probably there would have been some people that batted an eye, but for the most part, people wouldn't have batted an eye at it. But my friends, the patience by the Duke athletic department paid off handsomely for Duke University. So 42 total years coaching at Duke. Again, as I said, made 36 NCAA tournaments. So that means he only missed it 6 times. Let me enumerate those for you because it's just shows just how consistent this man kept the Blue Devils at. First 3 years of him coaching at Duke was 3 of those 6 tournaments they missed as they were getting things rolling. The other 3, one was 1994-95 when he had all those back issues. Duke really didn't play very well, and Coach K didn't coach most of the year. So that's one of the other 3 times they didn't make the other tournament. The second time that they didn't make the tournament is because there wasn't one, 2019-20. So you take that one away. And then the very next year, 2020-21, when Duke probably wasn't going to make the tournament anyway, but they were making a little ACC tournament run, but then had a COVID, somebody spiked COVID, and Duke had to withdraw from the ACC tournament. And that was that because they didn't have a good enough record to make the NCAA tournament. So those are the only 6 times Coach K hasn't made it to the NCAA tournament or didn't make it. His first 3 years at Duke, his bad back year, 94-95, a year the tournament didn't even happen. So you could really say that he made it 36 of 41 tournaments that took place. And then the year immediately following that, which had some understandable things. Duke was the model of consistency under Coach K. You're not going to win every national championship because that's just not the way it works in a one-off tournament. But it's impressive stuff. Also, one other thing about Coach K I want to point out, or at least something he said in an interview with Field of 68 at the time of the induction ceremony, or I guess in his case, his honoring ceremony since he was already in. But he said that he was asked about his retirement life. I think it was Jeff Goodman that asked him how retirement was going. And Coach K said, and I quote, "There's no recruiting, no transfer portal, and there's no NIL." And then he went on to say, like good or bad, and then tried to pull it back. But here's why I bring that up. We've talked quite a bit, anyone in college basketball, about this rash of big names leaving the sport into retirement. Coach K, Roy Williams, Jay Wright at Villanova. And there's a lot of speculation that, not in totality, but in a large part, how things like the transfer portal and NIL helped just be the straw that broke the camel's back. And just in a passing comment like that, you catch that from Coach K, and it's like, yeah, that played a big role. And I can't blame these guys, frankly. I don't know how I would survive as a head coach in this climate myself. So you made all the money you could ever make in the world. You want to go spend time with Mickey and the rest of your family. Cannot blame you. Coach K, great. Best of luck to you in retirement. What a great, phenomenal, legendary, and historic career. Curious to see if his wins total will ever be surpassed. Whether it is or not, unbelievable as a coach. Well, from the winningest coach of all time to the scoringest Tar Heel of all time, plus I want to introduce to you the rest of the 2023 College Basketball Hall of Fame class. And we'll do that in just a second. But first, I need to tell you that this episode of Locked On College Basketball is brought to you by Game Time. Life's always so busy, and the last thing I need to be doing is spending a ton of time stressed out trying to buy tickets for events. Thankfully, there's Game Time, which has killer deals on last-minute tickets for every event I want to go to. And when you're choosing seats for your event, you don't have to be stressed out about, like, is it going to be a good view? Because you get views of your seats right there in the app. So forget planning months in advance. Game Time is the place for last-minute ticket deals. They have deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. And you can get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, anything that you can think of. And the Game Time guarantee, listen, that means that you'll always get the best price, because if you find tickets in your same section and row for less, Game Time is going to credit you 110% of the difference. So snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download that Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, that's create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Terms apply. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, let's talk about the rest of this entering 2023 College Basketball Hall of Fame class. Tyler Hansbrough is the one I want to introduce next, because arguably, if not the most decorated and successful individually and team-wise college basketball player of the last couple decades. And I mean that strictly in the sense of what this person did as a college basketball player. I think a lot of times we lose sight because somebody like Tyler Hansbrough, who just didn't have much success specifically at the NBA level. But if you look at the resume of what he did in college, ain't many people touching what this Tar Heel did. 4-time first team All-American, consensus National Player of the Year in 2008, 4-time first team All-ACC player as well. And I know that's not as prestigious as All-American. However, he's the only person in ACC history to have done this, land on the ACC first team 4 times. He is still, to this day, the leading scorer in ACC history, the leading scorer in UNC history. Obviously, if he's the leading ACC scorer, he's got to be at UNC as well. 2,872 points. He broke JJ Redick's ACC record and Phil Ford's UNC record. And to this day, he has the 16th most career points in NCAA history. He left North Carolina as the leading rebounder, 1,219 rebounds, passing Sam Perkins' record. But then he is now number 2 because Armando Bacot surpassed Hansbrough last season. He is the only ACC player, Tyler Hansbrough, to lead his team in scoring and rebounding for 4 seasons. If you're the only player to do anything at ACC, it's like you're the only player ever in the ACC to do something. That's a big deal. He was, we talked about, didn't necessarily have a ton of NBA success, but was the 13th overall pick for the Pacers in the 2009 NBA draft. And then in terms of team success, postseason specifically, the Tar Heels built each year that Tyler Hansbrough was there. His freshman year, they lost in the second round to George Mason. The year George Mason went to the Final Four, Coach Jim Larenega's first Final Four. The next year, they went to the Elite Eight, where they lost to Georgetown. They had, if I remember correctly, that game won and then lost in overtime. And then Tyler Hansbrough's junior year went to the Final Four, where they got kind of run out of the gate by Kansas, made a valiant comeback, if I remember, and then fell just short. And then 2009, North Carolina was the national champs in Tyler Hansbrough's senior year, kind of just raced past Michigan State for that championship. Timing had a lot to do with the longevity of Tyler Hansbrough's success. He came into North Carolina right after the 2005 national championship, and that team lost Sean May, Marvin Williams, Rashad McCants, Raymond Felton, all to the NBA draft. And so that allowed Hansbrough, because of that timing, to step in right away from day one and score 21 points in his very first collegiate game, and then was off and running. An interesting factoid, we're talking about that North Carolina and Duke rivalry. Hansbrough actually never lost at Cameron Indoor Stadium, was 4-0 in his career. They're really interesting stuff. Second player in this section, third overall in the 23 Hall of Fame, College Basketball Hall of Fame class, is another Blue Devil, Johnny Dawkins. And I said it earlier. Let me say it again. Johnny Dawkins was a massive part of making Duke the Duke that we know today. Obviously, Coach K, biggest hand in that, I think we can, without argument, say. But Johnny Dawkins was one of the foundational pieces that helped get that thing off the ground and running. He was at Duke from 1982 to 86. Dawkins, same kind of story as Tyler Hansbrough. When he left, Duke was the leading scorer in school history, 2,556 points. I mean, that's back to in 1986, folks. He's leaving there. And even today, he's still the second leading scorer. You could probably infer it from what we said earlier about Tyler Hansbrough passing J.J. Redick, that now J.J. Redick is the leading scorer in Blue Devil history. Johnny Dawkins, two-time consensus All-American, four-time All-ACC player, was the National Player of the Year, the Naismith Award in 1986. And then in his senior year, 85-86, led Duke to the ACC regular season and ACC tournament championships, both. And then the Blue Devils fell just short that year, losing in the national championship game. He was the 10th overall pick in the 1986 draft by the Spurs. And you probably are aware that he coached at Stanford and is now at UCF. In fact, you might recall in the year with Zion Williamson and RJ Barrett, Cam Reddish, that whole Duke team, that Johnny Dawkins and his UCF team, which included his son Aubrey, almost knocked off the Blue Devils in what I guess it would have been the second round. I think UCF was like an 8 or 9, and Duke was obviously a 1 seed. UCF was down by 1 point with like 8.1 seconds left and the ball. Aubrey Dawkins himself had a tip at the buzzer, kind of came out of nowhere, and it just rolled off. I mean, it was one of those moments where if you're a Duke fan, you're just but crazy game there, and a really neat embrace between Coach Dawkins and Coach Krzyzewski. Long embrace, long conversation after that game ended. Next, fourth of the 23 College Basketball Hall of Fame inductees is Herb Magee. Now, this is a name you might not know, but I want you to hear this man because massive impact on college basketball at the D2 level. 54 years as the head coach at D2 Jefferson, 1,144 wins. That's the most in D2 history and the second most across all divisions behind, obviously, Coach K. 31 NCAA tournament Division II appearances. They were the champs in 1970. Coach Magee won 13 conference championships, 24 consecutive winning seasons from 1997 through when he retired in 2022. I don't care what school you're at, what division you're at, what sport it is, that level of sustained success, that's impressive. Crazy impressive. Great job by Coach Magee, who was the 1976 NABC D2 Coach of the Year, and also was a really good player in his own right. Scored 2,235 points. In the 1961-62 year, he averaged 29.2 points a game. 29.1 points per game, excuse me. And he himself was actually drafted in the 63 NBA draft. He was the 63rd overall pick and went to the Celtics, but interestingly enough, chose to start his coaching career right away. And then the final member of the 23 College Basketball Hall of Fame class is Tom Konchalski. Tom had 43 years of evaluating prospective college basketball players, one of the single most trusted talent scouts in the college basketball landscape. Unfortunately, Tom has passed away, so this is kind of a posthumous award. But published the Konchalski's High School Basketball Insider, which was published 16 times a year, and it's just one of those, at that time, one of those go-to sources for scouting reports, prospect ranks, all sorts of things like that. He managed, if you're familiar with his name from the high school kind of grassroots ranks, it's because he managed the 5-star basketball camp. And unfortunately, as I said, Tom passed away in 2021 because of cancer. And so our thoughts after, but still our thoughts can go out to his family on that. But Tom Konchalski, a great and important contributor to the game of college basketball, as along are all 5 of these gentlemen, a great and deserving class. And it's an honor to get to share them with you, to just get to remember names you already know and get to meet a couple names that maybe you didn't know, but that had a massive impact on this sport that you and I all love. Well, it's always a beautiful thing to see people helping out one another. College basketball teams have a massive opportunity to do so because of their platform. And here's what's really cool. Coach Tom Izzo, Coach Rick Barnes, they're taking advantage of it. How so? I'm going to tell you about it in just a second. All right. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about how Kansas and Illinois announced that their secret scrimmage that was going to be at Illinois was turning into a not so secret scrimmage. In fact, actually now a televised event on October 29th with benefit or proceeds going to benefit the work in Maui, working to restore things there in the Lahaina area. As a reminder, if just perhaps you missed this for some reason or another, but Lahaina Civic Center is where the Maui Invitational is played, kind of over on like the southwesty side of the island of Maui in Hawaii. But it was hit by what the AP report calls the, quote, deadliest U.S. wildfire in more than a century, end quote. As of this recording, there are more than 100 people dead and countless people still missing. This is devastatingly terrible. And so college basketball, because of their connection to Maui and to Lahaina specifically, are stepping up to do some work. And I love to see it. So on Wednesday, just 2 days ago, we learned of another high-profile secret scrimmage. We got Kansas and Illinois already. And this secret scrimmage is also the one we're about to talk about, going to change from a secret scrimmage to a public offering with, again, proceeds going to help out the people of Maui and specifically the Lahaina area. And so that secret scrimmage, or the not so now secret scrimmage, is Tennessee at Michigan State. Why at Michigan State? Well, these two teams had a secret scrimmage last year that was in Knoxville. And so they actually already had plans to play again this year in one of their secret scrimmages. And by the way, I guess I should also remind you, per NCAA guidelines, all schools get 2 something preseason like this just ahead of the season. You can have 2 exhibitions, you can have 2 secret scrimmages, or 1 of each. But those are the options. You get 2, and that's what you can do. And so that's what's going to happen. And so I love these 2 programs giving back to Lahaina, because it's 2 programs that have both played in this event multiple times and project to go back. In fact, that's happening very soon. But first, before we talk about that, let me give you just a couple of the details of it. Just like Kansas and Illinois, this game, this scrimmage, this I guess exhibition, you could call it now maybe, is also going to be on October 29th. It's actually going to be at the Breslin Center, which is where Michigan State plays their home games. Expect that to be absolutely packed. These are going to be 2 of the premier schools in the nation this year. I expect both of them to be preseason top 10. Definitely Michigan State. Michigan State, I will have in my top 5 preseason, so we'll see where they both land. Nothing yet out as of this recording on ticket info or game time or TV or anything like that, so we'll have to keep our eyes peeled for that. But all proceeds will go to the Hawaii Community Foundation Maui Strong Fund. And hear me, I didn't say some or a couple proceeds, all all proceeds will go to that fund. So I love this. These two coaches, Coach Barnes, Coach Izzo, coming together and saying, let's do this, man. Let's take care of these people. And I love Coach Barnes' quote. He said, quote, while we certainly need to continue to pray for the families in Maui who have been impacted, this benefit game will enable us to offer tangible support toward the restoration of Maui and its beautiful spirit, end quote. I think this is a great way to say this from Coach Barnes, because there's always that thing of offering thoughts and prayers, right? And sometimes, like, when I say that, I mean it. Like, I say that and then I literally stop and pray right then and there. But some people kind of get frustrated by that because it's like, well, they feel like it doesn't do anything. So Coach Barnes acknowledging, I think it's important for us to continue to pray for these families in this community. But if we can do something tangible, we should. And so we're going to. And so this is great from these two schools. Experience in the Maui Invitational. Michigan State has a little more than Tennessee. The Spartans have been 5 times to the Invitational, 91, 95, 05, 2010, and 2019. Have won it once, that very first time in 1991. In fact, this is pretty cool. Coach Izzo's first game as head coach of Michigan State was the 95 Maui Invitational. It actually started their schedule that season, and they beat Chaminade in that very first game. Also, Michigan State, not in the field this year, but they are scheduled for the 2024 Maui field. And then Tennessee, they've been 3 times to the Maui Invitational, 04, 2011, and 2016. They've didn't win any of those 3, but they are in this year's event. However, if you remember a couple weeks ago, we talked about that event is 100% loaded. I cannot wait to watch the 23 Maui Invitational. Speaking of which, at this time, we still don't know the status of this year's event. I imagine it's going to happen one way or another. The question is location. Will it be played in Lahaina? Will it be played in Maui? Will it be played in Hawaii somewhere else? Will it be played back here on the mainland in the continental 48 United States? Keep in mind, that's happened recently. The 2020 version was played in Asheville, North Carolina. The 2021 iteration of the Maui Invitational was played in Las Vegas. So it's not a foreign concept. In fact, it's happened 2 of the last 3 seasons, only moving back to the Lahaina Civic Center last year in 2022. I said it after the Kansas and Illinois announcement. I'll say it again. More of this. All the time. I want to see programs take advantage of these opportunities they have, these platforms, a chance to significantly help out some cause by bringing people together for like an exhibition game and charging tickets. And I know some programs really want it to be secret so they can try stuff, they can roll out stuff that they don't want to be on film, all that kind of stuff. But man, this is just cool. And in fact, Michigan State has done something like this recently. Back in 2017, the Spartans hosted University of Georgia in Grand Rapids. So that one wasn't at the Breslin Center, but all the proceeds from that went to helping hurricane relief in Georgia, as well as the Bahamas, which was the home of Tum Tum Nairn, who was a guard on that Michigan State team. Love it. Just more of this, please, folks. Keep it going. By the way, I mentioned World Cup FIBA updates. Just want to let you know the U.S. has moved on to the second round. It's kind of a wacky thing how this World Cup operates. It's not yet to a bracketed style. They're in another set of groups. So U.S. plays Montenegro today. In fact, it's already happened by the time probably you're listening to or watching this because it was in the middle of the night. And then they'll play Lithuania on Sunday morning, which you'll probably be able to watch because it's not at an ungodly hour like the Montenegro matchup. And then assuming the United States takes care of business with those, then they'll move on to the quarterfinals. And so we'll keep tabs on that. But there are a couple like higher profile college basketball players playing in this event, like Zach Edey, the reigning national player of the year, is playing for his home country of Canada. Olivier Kamwa, we just talked about Tennessee. Kamwa is transferring from Tennessee to Michigan, where he projects probably to be their dude. Their stud is playing for Finland, and actually, I believe starting in their front court alongside Lauri Markkanen, right? I think they're starting alongside each other in the front court. So great stuff there for those guys. Anyway, we'll keep tabs on the FIBA World Cup and see what's happening. Folks, it's been a great week of Locked On College Basketball. I want to thank you for tuning in with us and to today's show. I really hope you have a great weekend. Can't wait to chat with you again on Monday. Andy and I will be back together as we always are on Monday for that show. Please follow the show on Twitter at Locked On CBB. Follow me on Twitter at Isaac Shade. Also, please make sure to subscribe, smash the like button, and leave comments on your thoughts on this Hall of Fame class and on these exhibition games going for charity. As always, apologies to the Lawyer family. Let's go Wildcats, and until Monday, peace.